for us to give you the information, but it does seem that there's a lot of frustration with the power sector as it's currently constructed. What can you do in terms of the infrastructure?
Like I've said, we have a fix for the generation to generate enough power at the right cost to the economy. What we must do as a country, because there's been so much talk, including in Parliament, about opening up Kenya Power for competition. Kenya Power is what you call the off-taker, the company that takes power and distributes across the country. In many jurisdictions, many countries today, there's only one off-taker. It's very difficult to develop 2-3 networks because it's not like telecommunication where you splice frequency and you can have 4-5 companies competing. So yes, we have to do a lot of investment in Kenya Power. We have to do a lot of training. We have to make sure we build capacity. But more significantly, the off-taker Kenya Power needs a lot of investment in human resource, in the transmission and distribution network to ensure that we have got a robust, stable distribution network. You don't want a situation where every small tree which falls impacts on the entire distribution of power in the country.
Any final question before we close?
Corruption. Kenya Power was known for corruption. I don't know whether the current management is prone to that kind of practice, but it was known for that.
I think we have to do a lot of education, put in a lot of systems to ensure that, like you said, the cost of connection is well understood to be 34,000. We need to work out that cost. What I didn't mention is that we are working on what you call the last mile connectivity. Would like why it is 34,000 today is still because maybe the distance from the grid to most of the customers is still very far. We are working with World Bank to develop what would be a long-term, what will look at a long-term loan that we amortize through the bill, and so that when we have to connect you, we are not going to be charging 34,000. We can bring it down as low as 10,000.
Okay, that answers my question before about infrastructure, but not Mutegi's question about corruption.
I think, for instance, we can find a company being told to supply timber. You know, the poles. They supply nothing, they're paid. It used to happen.
And these are the things, Mutegi, that will be stories of the past. If costs are going to come down, because if Kenya Power must stay in business, if you must stay in business, you have to manage your cost. If you supply, for example, you'll realize the latest tender that is out, there have been complaints that we are pushing the supplier so much to supply below cost. Because every cost that we incur must be recovered. So to the extent that there is no delivery and we need poles to connect you, those poles must still be bought. If the costs are then exaggerated, our costs are not going to go down.
Not quite, because you're talking about costs coming down, but Kenya is 50, and one of the things we have heard is that there is enough in this country for all of us, but not enough for our greed, right? So what are you doing in terms of systemic measures to check people who will still find ways of trying to manipulate the system that you have?
Like I've said, it all boils down to managing cost. If you're going to do anything that increases cost in business, you must recover that cost. And therefore, to the extent that cost...
So you're saying that the high costs fuel the greed because people are trying to recoup their monies?
Correct.
Now, this is for them, Kenya Power to supply, install power poles to homes or to wherever. It's given to private company. They don't do it anymore. And these companies cook. They cook things and they go and clear the money.
Like I've said again, to the extent that Kenya Power, and we are bringing down costs. You know the costs that are charged by Kenya Power are gazetted. It's not like they are going to basically collect money to pay the suppliers if those goods have not been supplied. The power price that we are charged on the bill is gazetted every month. Maybe we may not be aware about this. And if we're going to bring the cost down, if I'm going to stay in business, I must be able to collect enough to pay for my cost. And to the extent that we are bringing costs down by 40%, you can be sure that people must do the right thing to be able to stay in business. Otherwise, how are you going to pay for those unfounded costs if we are not allowing you to collect more than 10 cents US per kilowatt hour? We are working on this in Cheche.
Okay.
40 months, I can assure you.
Okay. the cost of power will have come down. Our time is up, but Mutegi, we've focused mainly on the power sector and oil. Are you confident, having heard the Cabinet Secretary speak about what he's doing to ensure that Kenyans, at the end of the day, benefit from these resources and are able to run their lives?
I think we're on the right path. I think the Cabinet Secretary knows what he's doing.
And you have a lot of experience.
What he needs to do is crack the whip.
Crack the whip?
Yes.
A bit more. Sir, any final thoughts? You've been asked to crack the whip.
Let me basically say, because of time again, I want to give a promise. We have very elaborate programs. We are going to develop power. The biggest challenge that we are facing today with the institutional discipline that we are building is the concern of the business person who develops this power. In fact, there is so much concern today that we are pushing them so much that they are not going to make money from generating power. But the question is, let's generate power for Kenya using the correct matrix, the correct cost, and ensure that we do bring down cost of doing business in Kenya, create opportunities. What may not have come out very clearly is that we want Kenya to be a low-cost country. We want to bring in the global firms to choose Kenya as the center for manufacturing, for world economy, create opportunities. Opportunities will address issues of insecurity, and we really put this country where we ought to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have to end Cheche there with thanks to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum, Davis Chirchir, and to the one-man panel of Mutegi Njau of Royal Media Services. And as ever, I'll thank you for watching Cheche. My name is Udwa Kamimo. We'll see you next week.